here. Oh, interesting. Yeah, a little bit better. Okay. All right. I like this. Okay, this is one of the. Hello, Mr. Espinosa. Wow, you're always one of the first people connected here, man. You're so loyal. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Actually, really happy. Remember though that today is topic day, and hello. Remember that today is topic day, and remember that the next week, that is our last year's live, is gonna be dedicated to you guys, and it's gonna be based on love. Remember that. That's the one coming for next week. Okay. So hello, good people from the internet here at A-létheia, the Speak Up Club, and we have our live session in both Instagram and YouTube. We're happy to be here. Basically, I don't know how many Fridays in a row, but it's been a it's been a race, mostly for me, for our team. And we're really happy that a lots of people, like for example Mr. Espinosa over the internet is, are following us and are checking our every Friday 7 Guayaquil 8 and 8 New York time. So thank you, people. We're really happy. Now, on the topic tonight, the topic is called, well, as you can see in the description, how do I know I am making a right decision? And this is motivated to, as you guys know, you normally give me really cool questions, but some questions are really impossible to be answered in just one session because they have a lot to cut in every question. And obviously, as I try to care as much as I possibly can for the reasons why you ask me, the questions that you ask me, I try to give it, my good thinking when some of those questions actually ring that type of bell inside of me. I feel connected because I've been there too as an individual myself that once was a team like you guys, most of my audience and some of adults too. I mean, why not? Because finding oneself is obviously a situation that it goes for all your lives. Some people have it really hard to find themselves, and all people eventually manage to get there, right? You know, lucky them, the ones that really do it sooner. But it's never too late to really, really learn how to, get there to where you want. Now, obviously, I'm not speaking from the perspective of a person that has made it in life because I'm not really anyone important in that sense. Today, I was actually speaking to my wife about the whole, um, let's say, the point of view that every profession has in terms of how they affect the world. You got the engineers that affect their world based on what they do, what they make, because if it's a structure, public structure or building, obviously all the people that are are, let's say, living on the areas, on the place itself, people that work them there, etc., will have their lives affected by what they make. So you can say that there is some sort of correspondence to how impactful the work is. Engineers do the same. People that work with the markets, they have their own impact. People that work in accounting will have the impact only basically on the operations that they are involved with. But teachers and educators, we work, and I gave her the example in ways of like engineers do, but we are mind engineers. We build up structures that our students use for whatever they come to learn afterwards. If they have a good base, obviously they're capable of adapting much better with whatever they learn afterwards. If they have weak base, they struggle later on. So, and obviously for even my own experience, the thing that you really get to learn from your directly from your educators. It's not so much the technique. You get to be reinforcing techniques constantly along your life of getting more education, acquiring knowledge, techniques. I'm speaking about the typical skills that you have academically speaking, like learning how to write, learning how to read, how to speak properly, etc., etc., etc. Um, I'm speaking about the thing that you really get to learn from your educators are basically their values, whether you agree or disagree with them. And their values, you use them to compare the rest of the values that you will have to face throughout your whole life. And of course, the best educators are the ones that have left quite the shadow, or not the shadow, because that sounds a little bit negative. Let's say they have traced quite the path, if that's a better way to put it. And these individuals that were educated by such a person will basically begin to work on their own fields. Some of them will become engineers themselves. Some of them will become architects. Some of them will become mechanics. Some of them will do stuff that will affect people. And you see that the people that they will affect will basically be affected by the values that they use to see life. And those values, again, they have the connection to their educators, their teachers. So that's the greatest connection I have with most of the people that I've been involved with in that type of relationship, teacher and student. So of course, I try to take my students' questions really to my heart, and put the most thought that I could possibly have. And this one is actually a heavy hitter. You know, how do I know? How do I know I'm making the right decision even now when I choose to speak to you guys about this particular topic? Like, uh, I apply this to anything, right? Anything in life, and basically puts you in a position in which kind of like a world creator. You create a possibility of what if, and if you take one decision that goes one direction, and in the direction of the other direction that you didn't take, right? So of course, that the what if is that other possibility. What could have happened if you had taken the other decision, right? So you are in between two worlds, and sometimes even more options are there for you to take a decision, right? Every time that you're making a decision, you have that particular sensation sometimes that produces anxiety on you. The fact that you don't know if you took the right decision, if you, let's say, if you didn't mess up eventually, if the satisfaction that you had at the moment was not really the one that eventually you will end up enjoying because you will repent yourself for some reason. You see, that experience you had, um, simply when you buy stuff, for example, it's one of the easiest examples that we have. You buy stuff and you're not sure if your choice was the right choice, especially if it is something that you really care for, right? I'm speaking about, let's say, I don't know, me, that I love sports. I love having obviously the best implements for practicing the type of sports that I love, and one of them is running. So of course, running shoes, as you know, the good ones are very expensive, really expensive. If I am supposed to buy a pair of shoes, I need to really be sure that the shoes I'm buying, being expensive, are gonna be the ones that will benefit me for the long run. Uh, Making a pun of that, okay, of course. Um, Of course, if let's say these shoes happen, these pair of shoes happen to be ruined quite fast, if they break for some reason in the way sooner than I was expecting, I will feel that I took the wrong decision. But I cannot really make decisions just considering the hindsight all the time. I need to be capable of foreseeing that situation so I can take the proper decision. Then, again, how do I make a good decision? Or how do I know I'm making the good decision? Okay, well, let's go to the values part first, right? Because again, I mentioned before that technique and skills is one type of knowledge that helps you a lot. But when you're making a decision, you basically use your values. You resort to your values at the moment you take a decision. And sometimes you got conflicts in your values because you don't know how to set them up. People that tend to be highlighted as really smart. Obviously, are smart because they are capable of putting to practice everything that they know. Not necessarily because they are, let's say, they have a higher IQ. Not, it's not really about that. Even people with higher IQ don't make it in life. Not all of them, right? You can have a high IQ and be working at a seemingly useless job. That happens too. Maybe that person is happy and that's totally valid too. But we're not speaking about that. We're speaking about the fact of making a right decision and how intelligence affects this. Um, in order to consider, let's say, the rational aspect of how humans have learned throughout history of, you know, the best way of making decisions is obviously it lays on the field of ethics. And as you know, the field of ethics lies heavily on philosophy. Philosophy has sorry, ethics is just a branch of philosophy. So of course you will have to consider some of the best people in philosophy, in the history of philosophy, that has spoken about what should people consider in the moment that they make decisions. And I obviously have my favorite ones. I haven't read everyone. Come on, I'm a kid. I'm a white belt when it comes to philosophy. But I still have some of my favorite ones from the ones that I read. I got, for example, something to say from Spinoza. As you know, Spinoza was that type of philosopher that was completely in touch with everything, and he was 100% self-aware, and that's basically his source of knowledge. That self-awareness, and that self-awareness made him aware of everything else. And understanding this, he realized that what was good was that gave you life, that help you go forward in life, that help you progress in life, that help you, um, let's say, even multiply your life. Obviously, what was bad, that was the opposite. Whatever took away that strength from your life source. But you see, in Spinoza, everything worked in some sort of triagonal way, like triangular type of energy rotation situation that happened in Spinoza, in which you had your reason, you had your conatus. I mean, the conatus was that your the energy, of course, that helped you or propelled you to do stuff, and you got yourself as it is. You know, the person that had to basically bear with the consequences of everything, right? And that situation about how you relate to things may you sometimes be connected to that thing from a perspective that was not necessarily even all the time. Because on the one hand, you could, like, emotionally speaking, you could have a higher wrap up, a higher connection from your conatus to the thing, but maybe your reason is totally against it, and that's valid, and there are reasons for that. You know, your reason can tell you it's not a good idea, but your conatus says, "Ah, I feel so good." You know what I mean? There are many different things that you can think of that can actually put you in that situation. The opposite is true also, in which your reason tells you, hey, this is what we're supposed to be doing now, right? Because this is what's gonna give us the best solution ever. Okay, good, true. But then your conatus, that source of life was and is completely against it. Said like, no, this is the worst thing that we could do in this moment, the most boring thing or the most horrendous thing. No, please stop. I don't want to do this at this time. And again, the moments in which this happens to you, right? We all have that. So Spinoza said that you need to learn how to be aware of everything because as you have that, everybody else have. And as we all know, not everybody can be happy at the same time. At the end, in Spinoza, everything needed to be balanced up. You needed to consider that you needed to accommodate your appreciation for things on the conditions of understanding that other people will have to accommodate their perception of things. And at the very end, everything is supposed to be just connected to the thing that we all have in common. We all want to live, continue living. And as long as we could make our lives and the life of people that we connect to better somehow by, making them live, we are all good. And that was also the same thing, the same idea of God for Spinoza. The Spinozian God that influenced people as important later on as it was Einstein. A different story for a different day. Anyway, that's one guy that I have for you guys. So, taking a decision, considering those two things. Then we got this other guy. Sorry that I call them guys. My philosophy teachers, if they see or hear this, probably will be like, this bastard, why is he saying things the way he's saying? I'm really sorry, my teachers. Anyway, this important character in the history of philosophy named Kant, Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant, when it comes to ethics, he I'm not sure now. I should continue speaking about Kant because I haven't mentioned the very first one I should have started with. That is obviously Aristotle. Um, let's make a pause on Kant and let's go first to Aristotle. Let's revise Aristotle. Aristotle was super important for the history of this thing that we're speaking about, ethics themselves, because it's not that he was the first person that spoke about ethics, but it's just that he made such an important work in the Niconician ethics that we need to definitely, give it to him as the person that was the most representative in terms of, what ethics is supposed to be from the academic perspective. But that's again, if you want to be purist, I'm not purist. I don't even know if I'm actually being accurate with this. So let's just say that he was important, really important, and one of the first important ones that we need to consider when we speak about ethics. Now, the ethics of Aristotle consisted mainly on this idea that whatever you do, you need to consider the fact that it's gonna bring up. Let me. I put in my notes. Let me read you exactly how the notes said. Okay, said whatever. No, not this one. Here. Whatever you do it in such a way that the outcome of it does not affect, in this case, the rise or the beings, the well-beings of others. Okay, so it was, a little bit later on. We can say that in Christianism, it was adopted as don't do to others what you don't want others to do to you, right? That level of responsibility. It was all about the effect of responsibility as, like, for example, if you take a decision, you need to be sure that you are taking the decision on your own, right? And as you are sure that you're taking the decision on your own, that decision is supposed to be the right decision. So the only consequence that you can expect is, again, you don't want to take a decision that is going to bring you the worst consequence for you. You need to be aware that the decision that you're taking is a decision that you take, and of course the consequences will be fit according to how you took that decision. Now, why then this is first and not necessarily, in the middle, is because if you think about this, we obviously try to consider that for every decision that we make, we're supposed to, ponder every possibility. But we sometimes don't have all the time. And sometimes we get a lot of distraction. And as we get a lot of distraction, when we think about this, like, are we really making the decision? Are we sometimes? I remember watching this TV show the other day in Discovery Channel, I think it was, and I'm really sorry, guys, for the sound intrusion we have right now. I live in a neighborhood that has lots of noise with deliveries. Anyways, going back to what I was speaking about, on a TV show from Discovery Channel, that they were discussing different experiments that they were run about how um, perception is affected, perception of attraction is affected depending on how you're exposed to certain things. So, purposely or not, you can affect the way you perceive something as being attractive or not. And when it comes to, for example, mating, that is also true. So, I remember one of the experiments I took about how bold certain men behave depending on the environment. So they had this guy selling uh, shades, dark glasses, sunglasses, shades, however you want to call them. He was a street seller, of course, and he had a poster with all these different forms of shades, but he had like a double arrangement in the poster that he was carrying around. He had like conservative types on one side and flashy ones on the other side. You know what I mean? When it comes to flashy ones, the ones that people they consider pimp will wear, as opposed to the regular ones that the office man or the nerd type will wear. So, speaking about shades, obviously traditional ones, you know, office type, official type, etc., will wear. Not reading glasses. We're not speaking about reading glasses. We're speaking about shades. So the fact is, they started noticing that depending on the place where the person, the street seller, was selling these glasses, the reactions of the buyer were different. Obviously, they had a camera crew that were interviewing the people that approached the person that was selling the glasses. And obviously, they interviewed them at the time, and that was used as a reference for their experiment, social experiment. I don't know what type of experiment it was, but it worked on these conditions. So, if the background was an office building, the reactions of people and the type of glasses that they were more interested in checking, trying, and sometimes buying were obviously the most conservative type. When the opposite happened, the background was a bar, I don't know, someplace on the pink corner of a city. You know what I mean? The type of background that you can have there. The reaction of the gentleman was totally different, and they were bolder in the choices of glasses. and they seem much more relaxed. And it's so true that some people tend to behave much freer, much freely, much, let's say, unbound, and let's say, unshackled in certain circumstances, depending on the people that they are surrounded with. But you can go on other different extremes. Let's say, for example, we're speaking about anger. Um, there are moments in which you can be angrier, that the level of irritation that the situation induces on you can be that bad that you can even surprise yourself by your own reaction. Like, for instance, violence. I guess not every person that ends up doing something horrendously violent have always been like that, because, how could the person manage to be out of jail until then, right? The person went nuts in a particular moment, that particular situation. Sometimes it was induced to, let's say, I don't know, stress accumulation. But at the same time, it also was because at that moment was when the person just simply burst, right? There's certain things that make the level of irritation worse in certain moments. And we all know that because we have all of us that are human beings, regular human beings, know what it is to be angry, right? And all of us at the same time know, for example, that old saying that says, never never make promises when you're happy, and never take decisions when you're angry, right? You got these ideas of how this situation about making a decision on your own free will, and you thinking that you're on your own free will, makes you think how free is your will. So then now we can go to Kant. And Kant is really stern when it comes to the way that he defines the decisions that we're supposed to make, by saying, okay, whatever you do, you have one option to do it, which is, just act depending on how the situation is, right? But there's no value in that type of behavior. There's no value at all. The one that has the value is the one in which you make a decision based on a possible no, on a belief by you, of course, universal. Okay. And what is that universal? Like, that what you do is going to be considered an example for the future generations. Therefore, if you do something that is a bad example, is against that, right? So if it is something just, something fair, something good, it must be something that needs to be seen as a great example for those future generations. So that's the universal it needs to connect. It connects the universal of what is supposed to be correct. But the burden of that is, how informed are you about what is the correct thing, right? We go back to the beginning, right? How do I know that I'm making the right decision? How? I'm trying to make the right decision, and for that, I'm supposed to consider that everything that I do um, needs to obey this possible future scenario in which my action is gonna be taken as an example. Yeah, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what Kant wants you to do. And obviously, it's up to you to consider those things that are supposed to be good example. Now, obviously, this is something that depends mostly on, again, the quantity of values that you have, um, let's say, assimilated throughout your life. And I mean quantity when I was supposed to say quality. Quality because if you got good values, you're supposed to produce a lot of good stuff. But it's not true. It's not even realistic to say that we only learn good values. We are exposed to a lot of bad stuff too, even by the people that we care for and that we respect a lot. Why is that? Because That's how the world it is. It's not that they are bad values, it's that they are bad moments for such impressions. Going back to Spinoza, there are bad moments, as it so happens that everyone is obviously interested in getting something. That something sometimes can be conflictive uh, to others, and we clash. And those clashes produce that we do or take reactions that are definitely in detriment of the other person's well-being, and vice versa. Those are the bad encounters referred to Spinoza that are totally possible. And we need to consider that when someone does something that is terrible, also it depends on this. It depends on, you know, conflict of interest. Like for some people, what you're doing is great, and for others, it will be terrible, right? Um, I don't know if Instagram was trying to give me a message, but I don't know if it's true. Okay, let me continue with what I was saying. So, how do we, let's say, if we go deeper, how do we not foresee that that situation that I'm doing is the best example for the future generations? How do I foresee that I'm actually really on the money with my decision? People can actually consider that the decision I took was the best. If I'm not even convinced myself, how would I expect others to, to believe that what I did was good? Well, again, we will depend on the hindsight if we consider that it all depends. So it all depends on the conclusions, on the consequences of your actions. So the hindsight is not really a learning tool. It's mostly tragic. What if sorry, things don't go the way you wanted? So you're gonna blame it on the decision. Then you will say you took the wrong decision. Losing, however, not necessarily all the time, sorry, means that you made the wrong decision. Sometimes losing is a good decision. When I mean losing, I'm speaking about, again, taking a decision that made you lose something, made you not get what you wanted to, that go even against your own conatus, will to live. So of course will be a little bit anti-Spinozian, but that situation is necessary sometimes because you will say that maybe you will gain something even better later on, like for example, moral high standard, and that will be very Kantian to say that's possibility. But also, let's say there are many other different justifications that you can put on a person's behavior. Like we all know, for example, the heroes in history were people that behaved in such that they became the examples, and many of them were martyrs. And as we all know, martyrs are not people that end up in the greatest example, the greatest position ever. So of course they are examples, but you could definitely say negative examples because then do you think that people would like to sacrifice as a martyr did? Really? Even among certain groups, let's say among Protestant Christians, there was a trend in the 90s that they were wearing this ring. And this was in the US, obviously. And they tried to project it to different countries, as they always do. And they were wearing this particular ring that said, "What would Jesus do?" So of course, as they were wearing the ring, whenever, sorry, they said that they were taking a decision, they looked at the ring and they thought to themselves, what would Jesus do? Totally unpractical because Jesus did not live in the world that we live. And you could not really put Jesus in that pressure, under that type of pressure. Like, will we play against this team or against this other team? Will we buy Nike or Reebok? I mean, come on. How many different things that Jesus would not really consider because Jesus was a character that had a particular time and has an incredible value in the time that that he um, is placed according to the narrative. But today, when taking a decision, thinking about what would Jesus do would not just help me, really. In reality, you need more information than what Jesus could handle. Obviously, science in general could be a good source. So I will recommend people to simply just get better education. And it might sound awful to say that, but it's true. I mean, education in reality is out there. You can get educated, like, people are getting educated just now by listening. And even if you don't agree with what I'm saying, simply by just having the references that I'm giving you, you could actually go and get them, find on your own, and that for sure is going to help you in the long run. So education is out there. It's just simply the will that people need to have in order to get it, to acquire such a thing. And education will definitely make you have more options when taking a decision, when making a decision, because like, let's say, language, learning a language. If I don't have vocabulary, I will sound limited. I will seem limited. And will people will judge me as such because I will not have enough words to really try to describe the complexity of certain things that I think of. So if I don't have the words, whomever is listening to me will not really think of me in such complex way because I'm not really demonstrating any type of complexity because my vocabulary does not really help me. So you need the vocabulary to express yourself better. How do you get vocabulary? Well, simply just go get it. Read about it. Look for things that will give you the tools. And the tools are actually out there. All these people that live here in this incredible world that is internet, you guys that have access to all that information there. So obviously you guys need to use it. That's how it is. But we have education and we also need to have beyond education is criterion. I mean, you can have a lot of information, and not all that information can be necessarily considered as good education because a lot of information can be BS information, like fake information. I remember when I was a kid, there was this old saying that said something like, "There's nothing." Sorry, there is no book that for how bad it is that has nothing that has something or at least something a little something good in it. It's something like that. So it's basically just in other words, I probably make a mess of I made a mess of a saying. It was something like this, like every book will teach you. It doesn't really matter how wordless you think the book is, it will teach you something. Okay? Just a little thing. But we all know that's not true. There are books that are completely useless because they don't really match to the lifestyle that you have. And obviously, you are wasting your time if you are reading such books, if you have so many other different books that you want to read about. So let's say you're not really into prose, meaning you're not really into reading books. But there's other different things that you can read, a lot of different things that you can read. Let's begin just the headlines of news. Just find Google whatever is it that you want to know about. Like, why is it that men lose hair? For example, you write that in your Google search. Um, there will be some articles. I recommend check them out. Those articles will have some references to some investigation, maybe. Some of them will sound really interesting. I suggest you want to know, keep the flow of the search through. Click on the link of the authors of possible research, or other information that is relevant to whatever it is that you made your search about. What I mean by this is you can get access to information if you want to. You simply have to apply yourself to it. Okay. So, of course, that Kantian example will refer or will basically connect or resonate with people that have that particular spirit of self improvement that is inherent to education, to people that seek education. Now, there is another perception of, uh, uh, let's say, that we actually need to consider when it comes to making a decision. And for example, I think of the list and Guy's the list, and he said that sometimes we don't find solutions to our problems because sometimes we have the wrong problems. So sometimes making a decision will have to or will depend on how many points of view you had at the moment that you took that decision. You know, what was your approach? Was it always the only approach that you could take? If you have the chance of taking a different approach, why don't you try if that is the case of the situation? So Garceles was incredibly, sharp when it came to this particular situation because he argued that somehow the world that we live is not as normal as we think it is. We give it for granted that everybody else is sane and we might actually be a little crazy. But if we are a little crazy, that means that everybody else can be true, a little crazy. If that's such the case, we need to as we rely, as we rely on the fact that all of us want something, like Aristotle used to say, all of us want something, and all of us fight to get that something. And sometimes we clash, according to Spinoza. Sometimes we clash, because that thing that we all want is sometimes the same thing at the same time. Eh, but what if we try to take the things from a different perspective, like maybe it's not exactly that thing that you want in the moment that you want it. Yeah, you kind of like hijacking your mentality about what is it that you want in the way that you want it. I will go beyond the Western philosophy a little bit to the East by using the principles I think it was the Book of War or the Philosophy of War. I don't remember exactly. I know that is a basically is considered classified as Eastern philosophy. That in reality is an Eastern thought tradition. That's mostly how it is thought of, and it begins from the principle of understanding that for whatever thing that you want to achieve, no, for whatever thing that you do, you are supposed to achieve something. You don't make a move if you don't achieve something with it. Even if when you don't make a move, the strategy is that even your pauses must be productive, must be on the condition of achieving something with it. You can apply this to, for example, martial arts. We were speaking about the art of war, and martial arts are all about this. And one of the martial arts that I love watching them when I had time practice was BJJ. I love it. It's like playing chess with your body in a combative way, of course, and it's great. It's great. It's an incredibly relaxing type of exercise, though it's tense like hell. But it's really relaxing once you learn how to let go and go with the flow and roll over with the punches. They're not punches, but they're as painful. But with BJJ, you know that every move that you make, even if it is a defensive move, is supposed to foresee possible outcome, like, similar to chess, planning 2 or 3 moves ahead will obviously help you win in a match as it is, because those 2 or 3 moves ahead will, let's say, adjust the first move, the first decision. You need to adjust the first decision to match with what you want to later on. So obviously, you need to have a clear idea of what you want in order to match the next moves that you will basically be making. Apply that to reality, and you start thinking that for everything that you want, there is obviously a cost to pay. Everything has a cost. Now, you can be in good terms with the cost to pay. However, sometimes you don't know, you totally ignore that you could have a different outcome for the same thing. The same action can give you a totally different outcome. An example: you are late to do something that you wanted to do. Let's say, I don't know, meet up your friends for the movies. Because you were late helping your grandma on something. Of course, the time that you lost for the movies made you, maybe, I don't know, lose an opportunity of some good deal with your friends. Maybe a person that you like was among the group. And because of your lateness, that somehow affected the way things develop later on. However, at the same time, that action of you staying at home longer time than expected just because you were helping your grandma is gives you a different type of good, a different type of consequence, if you will, and that is a consequence that only you can value, you and your grandma can value uh, later on with whatever happens to your grandma, since it is your grandma. You're not gonna have her forever because grandmas are not forever. They are grown-ups. They are adult people. They are elder people, and they one day sooner or later will eventually die. You need to be aware of that. And as that happens, it might hurt. Well, it will hurt for sure. But before thinking about any hurting of your grandma's passing, think about the moment that you can actually spend with them, learn from them. You know, the good karma that it is that your grandma appreciated whatever you said that you did for them. I mean, you don't need to believe in anything. You simply think that what goes around comes around. So you're not really losing anything by just doing that good deed, which is helping someone in need, especially someone that cares for you. That's the best important thing that people need to consider. Investing in love is not bad at all. It sounds weird that I say investing because you're not really receiving compensation, like economic compensation. You're not. You don't need to. You don't need the economic compensation. The compensation you're getting is totally from your spirit. It heals you. It heals you. To do stuff for others heals you more than it heals them. So important that you need to, you know, consider the others in such a situation. Going back to ethics, you might lose time, you might lose a job opportunity, you might lose someone, because that happens too. Because you decided on something that had a different type of value for you. If that is the case, then I guess the best way for you to assure yourself is don't brood over something that you lost. If you actually knew that you were going to lose it because of your good sacrifice was aiming at a better thing, don't just, it's hopeless to do that. To think that Oh, I did this. I'm happy about this. And then later on be, oh no, why did I lose this opportunity? I mean, come on, who are you lying to? Why do you do something to be hurting afterwards? That's there is a Christian curse, if you believe in those things. Literally, it says something like this: that if you touch the if you touch the paddy field and you look to the back or behind you, you are cursed. And you probably say, what does that mean? There are many interpretations to it, but apparently the interpretation that goes is something like if you repent yourself from the work done, your own work done, you know, you are cursed because you're cursing your own head. You cannot really find any satisfaction as long as you're constantly repenting of everything that you do, that you put your heart into. You will never find that satisfaction. I remember in a movie I watched from Guillermo del Toro, Hellboy 2. There was this phrase that haunted me afterwards, after I heard it. It was said by the prince, the elf prince that was creating the revolt in that movie, that was the villain of a movie. And he said something like this, like he said, humans are are tragic beings, something like this, I think he said, because there is an emptiness, there is a void or source inside of humans that can never be filled. And they do whatever they do, they destroy whatever they want to, as long as they try filling that void that can never be filled ever. And that reminds me a lot to the Lacanian perception of the object petit a. You know, it's constantly skipping our reach for more. No matter how much we try, whenever we think that we did it, we got it, we really were reaching it. In that moment, we it slipped between our fingers and we lost it because it was not that. It was something else. Even when you get something, that the thing that you think that you wanted, then right there and then you want something totally different. No, not totally different, but something different than that, something more. So is it that we never satisfy? Not really. It's just simply that things move on, and you have to move on with things. But you have to come to terms to the things that happen around you. So in a way, we go back all the way to the Stoics, about how the Stoics were people that learn how to read the flow of life and adapt themselves to that flow of life, knowing that it didn't really do them any well to go against the will of destiny. What's the deal? The will of destiny. You simply whatever is something that made you try too hard for achieving that thing that you want. Now it sounds like a lazy excuse because it does sound like that. So how so? What's the balance here? Do you need to try hard for it, that thing that you want, or you just have to do whatever is easy for you? I think it's a combination of both. I think that yes, one person in life requires an objective to propel themselves to that up to that future. You begin making decisions aimed at achieving that. The clearer the idea of that thing that you want, the better your own ideas, your own procedure will be. And every person's path is totally different. We need to basically do the path, sorry, do with the path that we have the best, right? So some people are going to be better than others, that's for sure. Some people will make it faster. But I guess that the ones that are the fastest ones are the ones that have the clearer mind. Again, it's not a matter of skills, it's a matter of vision. But let's say that you don't have that. Let's say that you don't have a vision to your future, a clear one at least. Well, at least one thing you could do for sure is confront the situation by assessing from the very beginning a that thing that, let's say, that will give you the highest good. And the highest good can be applied for the other people too, but the highest good must be, again, that one that will allow you to be eventually happy. And what I mean eventually, I'm not speaking about like not now, only then. No, I'm not referring to that. It has to be projected from now, but it also needs to foresee the then. It needs to foresee the whole situation. Happiness is a mental state, and as a mental state, you begin first working on your mind first. You need to learn how your appreciation of reality goes to the condition of that business. That's peace in your mind that will allow you to, let's say, really enjoy those things that you normally do in order to live your regular day. If your regular day is adventure, if everything that you do every day is simply just something new, well, great. But if what you do is stationary and routinary, well, as long as you have satisfaction on that, then great. Do not dwell on the idea of what the others will think. Try to find the best thing for you. Okay? What is the best thing for you? Well, that's your responsibility to find. Try many different things. One of them is going to work. And even if it doesn't work, at least you know your own limitations. And then begin to, you know, foresee your future about what is it that you want to get. What is it that you want to achieve? What is it that you want to, how you want to be, but not because of what other people tells you. This is supposed to be what you within you feel the most comfortable with, the most, sorry, satisfied, not comfortable, satisfied with as that vision of your own future. And only in that question, I made 57 minutes. Wow, this is incredible. I never thought I was going to be capable of ranting for so long. I call it ranting just because it's only me speaking, right, people? Not supposed to be ranting. It's supposed to be me commenting or making a dissertation on a topic that was suggested by one of our public attendance, the ones that have been from the very beginning. Though not, I haven't seen Mr. Ayman today in comments, but well, I hope that when he gets to watch this, it'll be very interesting. For everyone else, oh, hello, Adriana, how are you? For everyone else, I do hope that the topic that we worked today was a little bit of your appreciation, understanding that it's not an easy topic. That thing about making decisions, it's something that can manage to steal the, 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 the the sleep of a lot of people, in fact, okay? Because you think so much about the consequences and about if you want to achieve it, to receive such consequences or not. But again, there needs to be a balance between that future perception of yourself in and the flow and process of the things that you can do. If you have that, you're supposed to go in the right direction. The problem is when you feel that you're being led, like you're not really making the decision. Somebody is making the decision for you. You're simply just following through. That is not the same. That's a sensation that normally steals peace from you. Doesn't really give you anything good. And with that, we are done for tonight. I'm really happy for everyone that attended tonight. Thank you, people. You guys are awesome. And I invite you, remember, next week is going to be love. right? We're gonna be speaking about a Q&A based on the topic of love, specifically about youthful love. You know, the type of love that it's so awkward because it's the type of love that many people in my audience, being teens, tend to torment you. You know, first time in love, first time really liking a person and actually having a chance. Those. If it's like a hopeless infatuation, one-sided infatuation, well, we are going to be speaking about that too, because that's a period in life that people need to overcome, no matter what. It's terrible when that happens. But yeah, that's going to be the topic for next week, people. And I don't have any questions in terms of the comments. Let me see quickly before we close here. No, I don't have any comments tonight. The only comment I had was from Mr. Espinosa. All right, Mr. Andres, thank you for attending tonight. Thank you to the people in YouTube. You guys are awesome, though not many today, tonight, but you guys will watch it later, and I love that. Remember next week, same hour, same channel, and the topic is teen love. All right, that's it for us tonight. Have a great evening. Enjoy your Friday. Bye bye. So down here and down here.